the world heavyweight boxing champ that fought for the Nazis. Max Schmeling was a pre-war German boxer who was heavyweight champion of the world between 1930 and 1932. He very famously fought the American heavyweight champ Joe Louis twice, losing to him in their sensational second fight in 1938. However, this legendary boxer would go on to be drafted by the Nazis early in World War II, where he served with the Luftwaffe and was trained as a paratrooper in the elite Fallschirmjäger. He took part in Operation Mercury in May 1941, jumping from a plane over the Greek island of Crete, where he was wounded on the first day of fighting. Savvy promoter. Central to Max Schmeling's success as a fighter was his association with Joe Jacobs, a Jewish businessman from New York's East Side. Jacobs was a cigar-smoking, quirky character who, despite knowing little about boxing, was a great promoter. With his help, Schmeling was able to get the fights and exposure necessary to advance his boxing career in the USA. Jacobs coined an interesting, if somewhat ridiculous, fighting nickname for his protege, the Black Ulan of the Rhine. Low blow champion. In 1930, Schmeling won the World Heavyweight Championship by default, after the reigning champion, Jack Sharkey, was disqualified for striking below the waist. This was the first and only time the World Heavyweight Championship was decided on a fault. Schmeling was distraught at claims from the public that he was the low blow champ. Nazi salute. Max Schmeling and his manager travelled to Germany in 1935 for his bout against Steve Hamas in Hamburg. He won the fight, and while standing in the ring, the spectators, numbering around 25,000, spontaneously stood and gave the Nazi salute as they sang the anthem. Both Schmeling and Jacobs seemed taken by surprise at this, and somewhat awkwardly gave the Nazi salute in return. This was widely reported and became the most infamous moment of Schmeling's career. The Rebel. Chancellor Adolf Hitler was greatly displeased that a German boxing champion had a Jewish promoter, and so the Reich Ministry of Sports contacted Schmeling, asking him to drop Joe Jacobs. However, Schmeling, who in reality was no Nazi despite the infamous salute, ignored this advice and continued his association with Jacobs. Furthermore, Schmeling had never joined the Nazi Party, unusual for such a public figure. Added to this, there is the story of how Schmeling risked his life during the purge against the Jews in Berlin by hiding 2 Jewish children in his apartment. Battle of the Century. In 1938, just before World War II, Schmeling fought Joe Louis for the heavyweight title. He had previously beaten Louis in 1936, but this rematch quickly became an international sensation. Louis was seen as an American symbol of freedom, whilst in contrast, Schmeling was demonized as a symbol of Nazi Germany. Schmeling was also without his manager Jacobs for once at ringside due to a recent ban, and was soundly thrashed by Louis in the first round. He was knocked down 3 times. Shortly after this stunning and perhaps prophetically symbolic defeat at the hands of Louis, Schmeling returned to Germany. Ironically, Max Schmeling and Joe Louis would go on to become friends after the war. Elite German paratrooper. Schmeling was drafted early in the war and served with the renowned Fallschirmjäger, training with them and seeing combat in Operation Mercury, the German invasion of Crete in May 1941. The German airborne troops, commanded by General Oberst Kurt Student, took the island, defeating strong Allied forces led by Major General Bernhard Freyberg. However, the Fallschirmjäger endured terrible casualties in the heavy fighting, around 6,000 in total, and the loss of many transport aircraft. Such heavy losses convinced Hitler that the airborne forces as an instrument of mass drops in warfare were finished, and from then on they were mainly to be employed as elite infantry on the ground. Max Schmeling jumped into action over Crete on the first day and was seriously wounded by mortar fire. Coca-Cola pioneer. After the war, Schmeling made a brief boxing comeback and then eventually opened a Coca-Cola bottling plant in Germany. He was to become quite a successful businessman and, as noted previously, befriended his old rival, Joe Louis, helping Louis financially in later years when he was down on his luck. Schmeling went on to finance Louis's funeral in 1981.